All right. I think we're live, which is awesome. We're live on all different kinds of channels here on YouTube. We're also live on Facebook at the same time. If you guys can hear me, just let me know in the chat. And yeah, we can get the party started. So I wanted to talk to you guys a bit about discipline today because that's really a topic that I've been getting a lot of questions from you guys about, and all the time. And we're talking about emails and send out some email related to personal development or just reading the comments. It seems like there's a lot of stuff related to discipline. It's always a question, how can I actually become more disciplined to do the things that I need to do? Because that's really what is preventing me from reaching my goals. Is the fact is that I'm getting an idea of where I need to go. I'm getting an idea of what I need to do. But then the question is, how can I actually do that on a consistent basis in order for me to reach my goal? Whether it's fat loss, whether it's getting to a business goal, whether it's to get in a good relationship with someone. In any case, your discipline, so your ability to actually be disciplined and to be able to stick to the goal is going to determine what's going to happen, right? Whether you're going to succeed or not. So that's the thing I want to talk to you guys a bit about today, and that's going to be our topic. Welcome everybody. Welcome Joe. Welcome Tomasz, and welcome Brodiash. I hope I pronounced that nickname correctly. I don't know if that's a name or a nickname actually. So yeah, the topic of discipline and the topic of doing what you need to do. That's really what discipline is, right? Discipline is doing the thing that you know you need to do and sort of doing it despite it not being very comfortable. And in some situations, you're doing it even though it's hard, but you're kind of plowing through. So how do you do that, right? How do you develop your mind to be that kind of mind? And there's different people, and you guys probably have friends who you envy when it comes to how disciplined they are in terms of like how they get stuff done, and it's hard stuff, and you're like, how the hell do how do you restrict your food intake? How do you say no to this? How do you say no to people? How do you stick to, I don't know, a business idea for long enough for it to make work? Um, and that's really where that whole discipline idea comes. And a lot of people will associate discipline with almost like a muscle that you build over time. And that's something we're going to be talking a bit about today is it really a muscle or is it something else? And how do you actually build it over time, right? And there's a lot of myths, there's a lot of anecdotes, there's a lot of stuff out there. And I'm going to share with you guys what I think is the truth, what worked for me, and what works for a lot of my clients when it comes to becoming more disciplined, sticking to a goal, sticking to a routine that gives you the results, sticking to healthy habits, especially when we're talking about fitness and health, because that's really what most people are here for, and that's the area that I specialize in. So you guys let me know if this stream is doing well. Because I'm streaming currently from Playa del Carmen in Mexico. The internet connection is not the fastest ever that I've had, so let me know if you guys have any lag or anything like that, so I can work on correcting that, potentially do something with the stream to make it better. So talking about the topic of discipline, uh, the problem with discipline is that, and it's very similar to other things, is that there's a lot of contradictory advice and there's a lot of myths out there. One of the most common ones is that some people are simply born disciplined or some people are raised to be disciplined. And it's called this whole nature versus nurture thing. Like if you aren't born with talent to become disciplined, can you actually develop that over time? And fortunately, most people think you can, which is true, you can. Most people nowadays, at least, are leaning toward their growth mindset, as Carol Dweck defines it. And that's the mindset where you think like if you apply yourself to a certain thing, that if you get better at it, you will eventually master it, even though you currently suck, compared to a fixed mindset where you think like, I was not born to do that, or I was not, I just don't have the talent necessary to do that. In a lot of skills, this is outside of sports where potentially being taller or having certain characteristics will guarantee that you're, I guess, at least qualified to do it. And in some cases, like you just can't even make it no matter what. But in terms of like skills, like coming from like personal skills like discipline, learning like math, educating yourself, memory, uh, skills like lifting weights in a certain way, or any kind of technique like that, it usually is not related to a fixed thing that you always have a lot of control over the thing. And that's one thing with discipline, right? As long as you have a growth mindset that you can actually build it over time, if you apply yourself, you have a chance for actually becoming disciplined. Versus the individual who is like, well, I've been kind of crappy with my discipline for 25 years or 30 years or even longer, and it's just who I am. So that's the first obstacle for you toward building yourself up as someone who has the ability to say that they're going to reach a goal and they're going to reach it, is being able to get rid of that old identity that you have built up, that this is not for you, or that you're not the kind of person who is disciplined. So that's the first obstacle. And I see this a lot with guys reaching out for mentoring, is oftentimes they have limiting beliefs and they've defined themselves as the type of person who's not disciplined. And what happens then is that it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're telling yourself you're not disciplined, which means that it's a very easy escape route for you to go to when you're, let's say, hitting a plateau or a roadblock or an obstacle, or when you don't know what to do. And instead of becoming more resourceful, which someone with a growth mindset would do, you actually start looking for excuses, and you're starting to get back into the identity, and you're like, yeah, I was right. And I was right all along, because this really isn't for me. And it's really funny, because you're going to find proof, whether you look for proof why discipline is not for you, but you're also going to find proof for becoming more disciplined. Whichever you look for, you will find. And that's the basic, the way how we work, right? So if you are looking for excuses, you can always find one. Now, that's the first thing, right? So don't let your identity and your past mistakes hold you back for what you're capable of doing in the future. And what I also mean by that is that the most important thing is what you're going to do tomorrow or in the future. It's more important than what happened in the past, right? So if you think about it, so what's really under your control? Well, what's under your control is what's going to happen to you in the future. Nothing that happened already is under your control anymore. So the way I view it is that I would say about 75% of importance or priority I would give to what am I going to do in the future, and that's much more important than what happened to me in the past. So don't let the past dictate too much of what's going on right now or what's going to go in the future. And what this allows you is actually to reinvent yourself. When you see that you haven't been doing things the right way, you can reinvent yourself and you can actually start doing things properly. Most people don't have this ability. So most people that you will encounter in your life, hey guys, hey everybody in the chat, awesome. By the way, while I'm talking, please write where you're watching this from. I'm definitely curious. We got USA here, we got other countries. Hey, Czech, Czech Republic, awesome. Need to check that out soon when I get back to Europe. So coming back to that thought is when we're looking at the whole idea of discipline and why you need to be able to reinvent yourself. Most people can't do this. So most people will sort of fall in line with a certain identity, and they're going to be stuck in that for the rest of their life. For the most part, people don't have the ability to reinvent themselves. And this is a huge problem, because your success in any area of your life, being health, being wealth, or your relationships, depends on your ability to admit your mistakes and being able to build yourself up or reinvent yourself, or even take a complete 180 and just do things completely different, right? And I could see from my clients in a lot of cases that you're getting, I mean, I'm getting guys in their mid to late 20s, guys in their 30s who have never really taken care of their health, and they've just made that decision. Now they want to become healthy, and they make that whole shift, which is a whole mindset shift, whole identity shift. I'm going to be that new person. And it's something that there's really no foundation for it. The only foundation that they have is just a decision that they want to do it. And that is enough to actually make it work. And this is what most people can't do. Most people are very eager to maintain consistency with their old identity, to avoid cognitive dissonance, to avoid acting out of their persona or their personality. Because most people think personality is fixed, which it is fixed to some extent, but it's also highly learnable and teachable. So you can actually uh, teach yourself or educate yourself to even change your personality completely. Like naturally, I would not be able to do this video, for example. Like naturally, I'm an introvert. I would be much better off and actually have I'm going to grab my PS4 controller and I'm just going to play video games all day. And I will just do that. Or I will just hide in a corner and not do that. Same with discipline. Naturally, I'm not disciplined. Like, I don't think anybody's disciplined naturally, because naturally you want to do what's easy and you want to expand the least amount of energy and effort to get the maximum return. And you're always going to wait for, short-term benefit more than long-term benefit. And that's really what naturally we want to do. So you literally have to brainwash yourself to eventually think long-term. And a part of discipline is thinking long-term, because discipline doesn't pay off short-term. It pays off long-term. And that's a big part of delaying gratification. A lot of times what discipline is, it is about delaying gratification. So instead of having a box of cookies right now, you're delaying the gratification up until the point where you get shredded and now you have abs and you can enjoy that instead of a box of cookies. And in that moment of the decision, it's like, okay, what's really most important for you? Is the box of cookies currently that's going to make you feel a little bit better, probably make you feel like shit when you overeat on your calories and you don't take care of yourself? Or is it delaying that and really thinking about your long-term goal and about your future and everything that you want to achieve, and achieving something that is really hard to get? That's also a source of great satisfaction. From my kind of experience, I love doing things that most people can't do. And I almost view that as a challenge. Like most people think, well, I can't get a six-pack. And that's why initially when I first started out, I thought, okay, I'm not going to be like most people. That's a huge motivator for me. That's a huge motivator for almost all my clients, is being above average. Because we don't associate average with something that you should strive for. We associate average with almost like failure. And while you stay average, you're basically defaulting to failure. At least that's kind of how I view it. I'm always looking for improvement. I'm always looking to improve myself. And a part of discipline is also you being able to take on a challenge and give a challenge to yourself. Hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a 30-day or 60-day or 90-day challenge. I'm just going to tell myself, and I'm going to hold myself to a standard, and I'm just going to do it, right? And it's that you're training that ability for setting a goal and reaching a goal. And it doesn't have to be anything super fancy, but pick anything small and start with that. And just by the fact that you said you're going to do something and you've achieved that thing, that little adaptation happened in your brain. You gave yourself some proof that you can actually stick with things. If discipline has been a problem for you, this is really, really important for you to be able to prove to yourself that you can actually stick to a process. This is huge, guys, because most people, again, they don't believe that they can actually achieve a process. They can stick to a process. They can achieve a result. They don't believe that. And that if you don't believe it, again, it's same as that identity where you think it's not for you. How are you going to achieve it if you don't even believe that it's possible? And again, it's going to default to a lot of excuses. So really, when we're talking about different other myths that I've seen personally, is that another myth is that you can become disciplined overnight. That is also, from my experience as being a coach, someone who's worked with 200 plus guys all around the world, mainly from English-speaking countries or countries in Europe where people do speak a lot of English or they just learned. I can tell you that it does not happen overnight. Simply because your brain has adapted certain habits that are just hard to break. And habits are hard to break overnight. Doesn't mean that you will never break them, but it just simply means that overnight you can't just make some magical transformation and just stop doing something and expect that your mind is not going to gravitate toward that, or at least for a course of a couple of weeks or months even. And that's just the way it works. If you've done something for 25 years or 15 years, it's a pattern. And patterns are hard to break. We love patterns. We love sticking to a habit. It's basically it's your default. And every time you're steering away from the default, it takes more mental energy to do so. So the default for you might be to spend the afternoon at home. You came back from work or you just came back from school. And maybe for you, the default is to check out what new Netflix show came out last night, and now you're going to watch the Netflix show. And you have that 1 hour. Maybe it's in the morning, maybe it's in the evening for you, maybe it's in the afternoon, whenever it is. So you're basically, there's a new show, and you've been doing this for years, and you just like it. It's kind of your time that you have for yourself, and it's kind of a part of your routine on a day-to-day basis. Now, to change that to training takes a lot of effort. So it's going to take some willpower initially to go away from that and go into something new. And it's going to take some rewiring now for a couple of months even. Can take a couple of months. Usually you can do it faster if you have enough leverage, if you do things right and if you have a clear process and all these other things which we can talk about. But it's going to take some time to rewire that neuron that is basically triggering you to watch the show, because the neuron is used to it. It takes no effort. It's something that is the default. It takes no brain power to do so. You know when it's going to happen. You pretty much know already where to click. It's all automated. It happens very fast compared to going to the gym, which is, when you first start out going to the gym, and if I can remember this correctly, about when I started out like 8-9 years ago, just packing my bag took 30 minutes. It's like just packing my bag. I would keep forgetting things. I would forget my towel, and I would have to I would go walk 15 minutes and then, oh shit, I forgot my towel. I don't have towels in the gym, so I have to go back home to grab the towel. I forget my gym access card. Forget the phone or the headphones or something like that. Some stupid stuff like that is happening because it's a new thing that you're doing. It's not a part of a routine. It's something that is it's like out of the ordinary, right? And you can expect all these kind of little glitches that are happening. You're like, why am I forgetting this? Like, what's going on? Like, why am I not, why is it not easy? But it's not easy because it's not a beaten path yet in your mind. Basically, there's friction. And to basically polish that friction, to actually go through and make it like a really straight line with no obstacles, it's going to take a few weeks for getting into the groove. And this happens to me even if I don't train for 4 or 5 days due to travel or something like that, which is very rare. I think it happened twice in the last 5 years, because I always make the effort to find a gym or train at home. But even then it happens. If you fell out of the groove a little bit, you kind of go to the gym and oh shit, I forgot my knee sleeves or some stupid thing like that. Like, why did I do that? It's just because it's a new location, new gym, a bunch of new things, and you're just getting overrun by all these inputs, and your brain can't really process it because it's just too many new things at once. And so you can expect this to happen with your diet. You can expect this to happen with your training plan, whatever it is initially. And that's a part of becoming disciplined, is in overcoming that initial hurdle. That's where most people give up. Most people will give up in the first few weeks of a new training plan. Now, at the time of making this video, we have, the February 10th, right? So 10th February. By this point, I would say 70% of people already gave up on their goals this year to achieve their fitness goals, which is really sad, right? But most of them gave up in that initial phase where the first barriers came and the first obstacles, and they're like, it's not worth it, right? And it's not worth it because they probably forgotten the goal, and the goal wasn't really real to begin with. Maybe it was just something that was, done because most people do it, so why don't I also add a New Year's resolution? But it wasn't really a true goal. Like, it wasn't really a true thing that they wanted to achieve. So it wasn't high on the priority list. And that's one thing with discipline, is that you can't be disciplined for something that is not real, or that's not tangible, or something that you don't really care about. Like, it's hard to be disciplined for something that you don't care about. So on the reverse, if you reverse engineer that, to be disciplined about something, make it something you care, or if you don't care about it now, have an idea of what it is so you can care more about it, learn more about it, set more specific goals, like have an idea where you want to go, and really think deeply why you want to go there. And if you care about it, it's going to become easier for you to become disciplined about it, because you're going to understand the sacrifice, because there's a sacrifice for everything. There's a sacrifice for doing videos, because now instead of me being at a beach here in Playa del Carmen, I'm here in this not so bad apartment, like condo, but still I could be on the beach chilling out in the sun and you know, screw everything. But that's also not, I mean, not going to prevent me now from doing this video, because I know this video is going to help a lot of you guys. A lot of you guys reach out to me for help and these other things, and it's really about, you know, the priority right now was to do this, and I made myself, because I care about this as well as the beach, I can say, well, I care about this more right now, and that's really about me choosing what's the most important thing right now. This is also coming to breaking bad habits. Or every time you choose to, I don't know, smoke a cigarette, it's actually a mini decision that happens in your mind, where this decision is the cigarette is more important than my long-term health. And you're constantly making that decision. This is why getting some illness or a disease related to smoking, it's not like it happened overnight. It was like the compound effect of thousands of those small decisions where you pick that cigarette over being healthy. And that compounded eventually to a point where it's like, okay, the body says enough is enough. There's plenty of factors here. You're not taking care of yourself. Now we're going to make you sick. And now you're going to have to make 1,000 other decisions to actually fix yourself, if you can even fix yourself. Because it doesn't happen, you know, again, it can't reverse just by, oh, I'm just going to stop smoking now and all of a sudden I'm going to get healthy. Well, that's not how it works. Because then you need another compound effect to actually get healthy again. So you got to do a lot of things right. So I'm going to check the chat a little bit here. Some pretty cool stuff happening. Hey, Canada. Hey, Brazil. Italy. Hey, Trinidad. That's from the, says London here, Germany, LA. Hello, Uruguay. Awesome. We got a lot of different countries from all different continents. We got Lithuania, Guatemala. Oh, cool. India. Awesome. Cool, guys. So yeah, questions about discipline, make sure to put them in the comments below. You guys can just post there, and I'll be able to read them. There's a slight delay, but I think we can make it work. So another thing that I wanted to emphasize here, it's really important, is that who you are and to be your best self, to be your most disciplined and most, let's say, consistent person that you can be, you have to keep conditioning yourself to be that person, right? So it happens on different levels. So you can condition yourself on small things like making the right choices when it comes to food. And every time, let's say, you make a small decision that is in congruence with your goal, you're then disciplining yourself, but you're also you're really conditioning yourself. That's really the conditioning part of it, because you're investing in an identity. You're investing in who you are. So small decisions like that, like being in a supermarket and not buying this thing that is like complete crap junk food, and you just go buy, I don't know, a pack of nuts or something very healthy, or more vegetables and more fruits. You're actually investing in that identity instead of investing in the other identity. And conditioning yourself like that actually is very powerful. Another way to condition yourself is, one of my favorite ways is actually to read a lot of books. I'm a big fan, right? So by me reading a lot of books that are actually inspiring me, like biographies, like I don't know, read Warren Buffett or Arnold Schwarzenegger or Steve Jobs or Jerry Weintraub, or whoever you want to read about. It doesn't matter whose biography it is if it inspires you, like the Shoe Dog or whoever it is, right? But it has to inspire you. And when you have that inspiration coming into your life, that is also one way of you conditioning yourself to be more similar to that person, to have those qualities that you want to instill in your life. And conditioning yourself like that actually can't stop, because as soon as it stops for a long period of time, you lose some of those effects, which is very interesting, right? You would think that after you read, you know, like, I don't know, hundreds of books, and if you guys are not sure about it, just go to atomic.com/books. You can check my entire reading list if you're not sure what to read. There's a lot of stuff there. But even after reading so much, because the brain is so responsive to inputs, and especially the brain that is looking to adapt very quickly to things, by neglecting your conditioning, by neglecting putting like positive things in your mind, you're actually going to lose some of those adaptations. In a couple of weeks, you're already starting to feel effects. Like being overly exposed to negative media or things like that, it has a very immediate effect on you. Within just a couple of weeks, you will find yourself just being more negative and more depressed and more fearful of life, compared to if you expose yourself to a lot of positive stuff and you keep yourself positive, engaged, and growing and learning and pushing yourself outside the comfort zone, is going to have a very immediate effect on you. So a part of being disciplined is continuous conditioning to be the type of person that you need to be, and constantly proving to yourself that you can do this. And this really comes down to small decisions and also big decisions. And I like the fact that you need to condition it, and it's really fair to think that the world works like that. It's very similar to training in the gym. Like if you skip a month or two of training, you're definitely going to lose some of the benefits that you've gained, regardless of the fact that you've trained for years and years and years. That's really life. It's ruthless. Like you cannot ignore something completely and expect that it's going to work. It just doesn't. It degrades. It's a continuous process, whether it's building it up or whether it's destroying it, but you're constantly either investing to build it, investing to maintain it, or it's going to naturally start declining if you're not investing enough effort into it. So it's similar to your discipline. If your discipline is not consistently being trained or maintained, at least, doesn't even have to improve, maybe you can just maintain it, it's going to start to decline. And no matter how disciplined you are right now, if you're in this immersion phase where you're really on point in your life, maybe that's a phase where you're in right now. I love being in those immersive phases where I really am crushing it. That doesn't mean that 6 months from now I'm gonna be in a similar phase where I can actually just do that without actually having to train myself up again. It just doesn't work like that, right? I need to go through the process, and this is, again, nobody's above the process. All of us here, and every human being is really adaptive, so it's kind of use it or lose it, right? That's pretty much a universal law of how your mind works. Whatever you don't use, you don't have to use it every single moment of the day, but whatever you don't use, you're going to lose eventually. And whatever you don't invest in, you're going to lose, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a business, whether it's your personal health, whatever it is, right? It requires some investment. So whether it's time, effort, resources, whatever it is going to take some investment to actually make it happen. It's similar to your discipline. Your discipline requires consistent investment in order for it to be maintained, right? So it's not some kind of threshold, which is like a myth out there, is that you will eventually reach a threshold, and once you go above that threshold, like now you're disciplined. You're just like this disciplined person, which has nothing. I mean, nothing could be farther from the truth. Is yes, you will gain momentum, you will really crush it, but at the same time, if you stop investing in it, you're gonna lose it. Like no matter how disciplined you are, but there's things that you have to keep doing. Like famous is like if you talk to, I'm gonna talk to my friends in the army or special forces, and them, they train their discipline daily, whether it's waking up at like 4:30 a.m. It's just an investment in discipline. Maybe they don't do a lot of other things throughout the day, but they do like cold showers, they do exercise, they wake up in the morning. This is the power of training and being adherent to a workout routine and to a good diet routine, to a good sleeping routine, is that it builds you up. And you becoming more disciplined, what also then does is actually makes you more disciplined in business. So if you want to set a goal in business, you're more likely to achieve it. And I see this with my clients specifically, is that a lot of people that I work with are entrepreneurs, and they're into making money online especially. And they're marketers, consultants, and they do great things to help other people grow their business, but they're still very involved in their business and in their kind of what they're delivering, the service. So they need to be disciplined. And what happens a lot of times is that even without any extra work or any extra education in their field, in their business, whatever they're providing as a service or managing a company, just by them becoming more kind of regimented when it comes to training and nutrition and sleep, they now start transitioning those qualities into business. And they start becoming more disciplined in business. They're starting to become more say careful who they work with, and then when they take on someone who's a really good client, they're very disciplined with them, what needs to happen, and they deliver the service, and they're more eager to stick to a plan, and they're just executing much better. And I see this happen consistently, and I can pretty much attribute, I'd say like 80% of my success in my entire life is because of my discipline that was built up through training and nutrition. Probably like 80% or more of my success is because I've invested the time into something really hard, like training, that keeps pushing me consistently on a day-to-day basis, which is really, really powerful. So I'm gonna check in some of the questions here. Hey Croatia, hey Finland, Ohio, awesome. Bangkok, we got Thailand in here, which is awesome. Cool. There's a few questions here. Let me try to actually go through some of the stuff in the comments. See what's going on. My problem is it seems like I can be disciplined in one area at a time. I was on point when it comes to training and the diet, then transferred all of my focus on acting, business, and fitness suffers. Yeah, this is actually it's actually very common, and it's not so much to do with discipline as it is much to do with focus. So yeah, like you cannot focus on 5 things at the same time. And when I get people reaching out for advice or mentorship, and people reach out, they want to do something, they want to change their life, and it's all a mess right now, which means that all areas of life are not where they need to be and where they want it to be. What happens is that you see a lot of stress at the same time happening from all different directions, and that's one of the fastest ways to fail, is to have a billion things that you want to do at the same time, thousands of goals, like things that they want to do. Everything needs to improve. Focus is rare in today's world. Like focus is extremely rare, and it's an absolute necessity if you want to break through in a certain area of your life. I'm a big fan of focused effort for periods of time, and then maintenance, and then escalating that focus further if you need to, let's say, continuously improve that area of your life. So I'll give you an example here. So let's say for you to lose 40 pounds, let's say in the next 6 months, which is common, I'm giving you this kind of as an average with my programs, what happens. Let's say you want to do that for the next 6 months, and you would sort of maintain the rest of your life, so you wouldn't really go on some crazy, you could do some improvements in the other areas of your life, but mainly your goal for the next 6 months is fitness, right? So you want to really immerse yourself. You want to give a decent time, like an hour a day or two, to really work on your nutrition, to really work on your training, to implement a program. At least in my program, that's how it works. So you have this immersion phase, right? And this immersion phase basically will give you 40 pounds less at the end of 6 months. So you will reach a really good goal, and you have that. It's tangible, like it's yours. Once you have it, then you have a choice. You can either keep working on fitness, you can keep maintain that, let's say, focus there. And a lot of the guys that I work with, they like to keep pushing it even further because their business is already at a good level and they don't really have to be involved as much. But let's say you don't have that luxury, and now you want to focus on business for the next 6 months. Well, that's actually not a problem, because if you've done things right, you've not only reached a certain goal, but you know the process and you know how to maintain. So for you, you've actually made a big leap because of being immersed, and now you can maintain that level in your health and fitness, and you can work more in your business for the next 6 months and create a breakthrough there. Once you create a breakthrough in your business, you want to spend some time in learning how to maintain that breakthrough, and then you want to focus on something else. And this way you can really leverage your time well in a short period of time to create a bigger breakthrough where you can leverage, and you can create a 10x result compared to doing everything at the same time, which I mean, I've never met someone who's actually been able to get an amazing chef at the same time as building a awesome, like 6 or 7 figure business and at the same time been like going out hardcore and just improving their social skills or wherever else, right? I haven't met people that have done all of that at the same time, and it doesn't seem realistic because there's just too many inputs and there's just not enough time, or not even time, but mental energy. If you want to do things right, it's just going to be, I mean, that's a recipe for disaster. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's very unlikely. From my experience, I would say having one kind of area of your life that really is the one area that you focus on, and then the rest is kind of like on maintenance, maybe slightly improving with some minimal investment of time and energy. That's really the recipe for like the fast success that I can think of in any area of your life. So in health or fitness, that is especially important because you can get an amazing shape in 6 months. Like you can create a badass physique. I mean, in 6 months you can do great things. And I know it's not like 2 weeks or 3 weeks like the the people say, like, oh, get shredded in 3 weeks. That's a bunch of nonsense. But in 6 months you can actually do it. Like you can create an amazing result in that amount of time. And that's not that long. I mean, those months will pass. Like if you've done things right, I mean, let's say in June this year, starting January, you would have already been in amazing shape. Like you would have been like in the best shape of your life. Yeah, that's fantastic, right? If you want to do more business stuff later, fantastic. You just maintain that. You're just rock solid in your health, and you just do that for a while. So again, I'm a big fan of focus shifting, but I'm not a big fan of black and white thinking. And this is where people get confused, and same with discipline and same with focus. People get confused because they think like what I'm saying is black and white. So that means that it's an on and off switch. So I want to do health and fitness, on, and everything else off, off, off. And then I'm going to do this. Okay, this is done, off. Let's do everything else on and on and on. So by doing that, you actually will lose the results. Like you will lose the results if you're not following the process, if you're not actually taking care of the maintenance. You're going to lose the results that you've gotten. Maybe you're not going to regain all the 40 pounds, but you're going to gain a pretty big chunk of it back. And there's no reason for doing that because maintaining is actually a lot less effort than creating a breakthrough in your life. And creating those breakthroughs is how you're going to get the most in the shortest amount of time. And this is where you're going to get you're pulling the biggest leverage point. That's you're working your biggest leverage point, and that's what I'm a big fan of. So cool. Hey Uruguay, cool. You're hot as hell. Well, yeah, it's actually pretty hot here in Mexico. That must be the reason for that. Cool. Awesome. There's a question here. How to deal with social resistance when it comes to fitness, dieting especially from friends and family because not everyone understands my passion for fitness. This clash affects my discipline bad. That's actually a great question on having on like resistance from people around you, and it's huge, right? It's absolutely huge, and I would say that if I listened to people around me to what I needed to do, I would be on a farm somewhere now probably, or doing a dead end 9 to 5 for like a couple $100 a month, being extremely miserable and spending like 4 hours a day in traffic and just hating my life, and probably like living in a shithole studio somewhere with my parents because I couldn't afford anything else. I would probably be overweight. I would have probably never stepped on an airplane in my entire life. I would have probably like be alone, maybe with a couple of friends who are in a kind of similar situation. So I'd be leading a very different life than I'm leading right now if I was to listen to people around me, whether they're friends or family, whoever it is, because they don't have the same goals or perspective or an idea what you want to achieve. They can't necessarily understand where you want to go, and they don't even know the path, and they don't even know that you're willing to pay the price, and they don't even know the risks or the benefits or the reward or anything. So by you listening to feedback from people that are not qualified to give you feedback, you're actually just gonna fail. Like, you will not succeed. It's just not gonna lead to anything very productive. If you want advice and if you want to be affected by people, make sure that those people that you're letting in here are actually qualified to give you advice. Someone who is somewhere where you want to go, someone who's actually gone through a lot of things, and they can tell you, well, this is how things will go and this is what's going to happen. This is why mentoring is really important, because you can get someone who's ahead of you, like 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and they will keep it real. They are going to tell you what's going on. But by listening to your, let's say you're listening to your parents how to get in good shape, and they've never been in good shape in their entire life, and they're like on statins and on medication, they're not qualified to give you advice. Like, they cannot teach you what you need to know to get in good shape, or they cannot teach you or give you a way to live your life if they're not in a position that you want to be in. Right? So if you want the life that they have, then by all means listen to what they're offering, because that's what you're gonna get. But if you want something different, then you need to listen to people that have that, and not listen to people that don't have what you want. And that's the simple truth right then and there. And you have to have these personal boundaries. Like, these personal boundaries, meaning that your success, and this is not, I don't think this is something that I've invented, or I think this is probably I read in a book somewhere, or who said this, probably even Steve Jobs said this multiple times, is that your success actually doesn't depend on how many times you say yes, but it's going to depend on how many times you say no, to how many things you decline, to how many opportunities you pass because you're doing something, or maybe not just opportunities, but just like things that you're not supposed to do. There's a lot more things that you're not supposed to do than there are things that you're supposed to do if you want to be successful. So, and by successful, I mean like fit, relatively financially well off, and having a good relationship with people. There's a lot more no's involved than yeses in that process. So this is where you're creating your personal boundaries, and you're internally validated. So you're not looking for external validation from people to validate your ideas. You can validate yourself internally, and that gives you the power to actually adhere to a process, because you're keeping yourself validated, and you're repelling like these inputs that don't matter, because you're giving your input, or input of qualified people, matters more than just random inputs from people all around. So it's really, really important for you to have those boundaries, and to be able to live in your own world and create your own rules. And that is the only way to fight off a negative environment. Or, well, the other way would be to move or go somewhere where you don't have that influence. But for the most part, if you plan on living in a location where there's a lot of negative influence or people pulling you down, probably the best idea is to move. But the second best idea is to actually create personal boundaries, and just and even talk openly with people about this. Like, I'm not a big fan of cutting people out of my life, but if someone would actually come, and this wouldn't apply for family as much as for friends, but if someone would be a friend and they would come and they would say, look, what you're doing, all this travel, or like all this gym and all this eating this food, and taking care of like you're counting your macros or something like that, or you're reading a lot, like, why the fuck are you doing that? Well, if a person would actually do that, and nobody does that at all, at least not now, but if someone would actually do that, I'll be like, look, you're absolutely right, that's awesome, I had a great time today, I would never text that person again. It's like that person would just disappear. I would just minimize all contacts, that would be it. Like, there's no point in continuing to invest in that relationship if that relationship is not actually contributing to you, to your goals. And if it's another obstacle, like, it's a very easy obstacle to remove, and you should be removing all those types of obstacles that you can. If it's family, though, that's a little bit trickier, but again, you have to be very open about it, and you have to stick to your goals and not let yourself get emotionally blackmailed into doing something that might make someone else happy, and make you miserable. Because a lot of parents, and this is, I don't know if you guys are, how much experience you guys have with that, but a lot of parents will use emotional blackmail to get you to do things that you feel like you're in debt to, and I get this a lot with from like some of my friends, and I hear it from some of my clients. Like, you're in debt to us because we provided this and this and this and this, so you have to do this and this and this, right? So it's a form of blackmailing, basically, right? So they're appealing to your emotions, like, oh, if you don't do this, I'm gonna be miserable or depressed, or I'm not gonna live my life, or you're making my life miserable because of you, or like, I wish I never had you, and things like that, right? Now, there's no way to actually fix this in a sense of like actually fixing the other person, but to actually uh, stick with your own goal. Like, you have your own life, and you have to really value your own time on this planet. And this sucks that it's happening, and it really really sucks. There's no words to describe it. I don't even know what to say about this in most cases when people ask me. The only thing you can really do is have a clear boundary, set it, and make sure to abide by it. So don't let yourself get blackmailed, basically, right? Don't let yourself fall into that story. Don't be emotionally reactive. That's really the biggest issue here. Is like, if you're emotionally reactive, you're done. Like, you're done, right? If someone can get to you, and parents and family can definitely get to you because they know you, but you can be stronger than that, because you can know what's going on, and you can become stronger than that, because then you're gonna be like, okay, yeah, that's happening, so I can really take a step back, chill out, have my boundaries, stay on your path. And if everybody's parents would be doing that, like, you're basically, all of us would just become these all of us would, like, our generations would end there, right? Like, imagine, like, if you're in debt to your parents, then if you have to do what they're saying, then you're gonna have to do the same thing to your kids, and it's like all a big mess, right? So that's just not really how, that's not a really healthy behavior, but it's just something that people resort to as a way to control, especially someone who's used to controlling a lot. Hey everybody, cool. I'm gonna get to some of these questions. Uh, enjoy the enjoy the heavy squats. But yeah, really, is have internal validation and validate your own life goals and your ideas, and you know how you want to live your life, and you live it. Because you really have, so far, what we know is, have one chance, man. Like, or whoever, you just have one thing, right? So it's not, it's not even worth to spend a year doing something that you really absolutely hate if you can't change it. Like, if there's a way out, and if it takes effort, it doesn't matter if it takes effort, but if there is a way out, if there is a opportunity there, and if you, everything that you're seeing says, okay, this is the right choice, and if the risk is to offend someone, you should probably make that choice, because it's much easier for someone to be offended. That's a much less of a problem than if you live your life the way that makes you absolutely miserable for the next 50 years until you die. Like, it's just not, the trade-off is not worth it. And yeah, everybody's people like that. It's a little bit off topic, um, but that's really how you have to behave. And it sucks. I know traditionally families are like that. So yeah, it's gonna be a huge problem. Um, I would absolutely build my own world, and I would always focus on building my own world. I think that's the best way of doing things, is like, have something on your own and like really build and invest in it and grow it. So even though, like, some people are saying here that you have to go to uni, and you have to do things like that, that still doesn't matter, that you can't have your own entire world there and invest in it. So if I was in the uni right now, I would 100% build a side business. I would 100% take care of my health. I would 100% go and meet more people, improve my social skills. I would get into like all kinds of things as much as I can. And yeah, uni takes time. Yeah, it's going to be a grind, but hell, everything is a grind. Like you think after uni it's gonna be easier, it's gonna be exactly the same. So you just basically have to start, crushing it. That's the only way. That's the only way out, basically. So the only way out of a situation where you're being blackmailed is for you to crush it and to be extremely successful. That's the only way out. There's no other way out. If you're unsuccessful, then you're actually, kind of putting more fuel to the fire, and there's more reasons for you to be blackmailed and to follow someone's rules because you don't have any proof that you can do things differently. But if you're absolutely crushing it, if you're in really good shape, if you're really successful, like who can tell you anything, right? You have something that works, and you can do that, and there's a good reason for that. So yeah, it's a little bit off topic. So I'm going to check some questions here, but that's a good question, actually. Do I plan to compete in physique competition at some point? Actually, no, not at this point. I don't really plan on competing. There's just no point. My main focus right now is coaching and helping people reach their goals and mentoring people. Uh, my own physique is great to develop. I love to work on myself and keep pushing myself, but it's not really something that I find the biggest priority. My biggest priority right now is actually just my business and helping people and coaching people and mentoring people to help them reach their goals. Because my goals are not as important as their goals, right? And as a coach, that's a point where you reach, and because me competing would require me to sacrifice some of the goals that I have for my clients or my business, I would just not do that. It's not worth the trade-off at this point, right? Maybe sometime in the future, sure, but it's just not worth the trade-off. And yeah, that's how it is. What things can we do to deeply understand why something like getting and staying lean is good for you and turn into a habit? One of the best ways to do that is just to speak with people who have reached the goal, like talking to someone who's actually there, who can tell you, like a mentor, a friend, someone who can tell you how their life changed, someone who's a really good anecdote, someone who can tell you this is all the things that happened to me, and someone who's a really good role model with success. Like the one thing that I'm trying to be for all my clients and for you guys, if I can. Um, I mean, as much as I can in some areas of my life, I'm trying to be a role model. Like I'm trying to do things right so I can inspire and show what happens if you do things right. Like, yeah, you can travel the world. Yeah, you can be in amazing shape like 365 days a year. Yeah, you can run a really cool business helping people. Yeah, you can do all those things, right? And being that role model is just, I mean, that's one thing I know that will inspire people to actually pursue things like that. Like you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing, but you have to be in really good shape. You have to somewhat be, social with people, and you have to actually, have some form of, financial freedom with something. Like it doesn't have to be, fitness, like, and that's really hard to do, but there's many other ways, right, to make yourself to be able to provide for your family and for yourself, right? So speaking with people who have gone through the process, speaking with people who have reached a really big goal that you want to reach is one of the fastest way for you to get inspired and just to connect the dots, just to see what the effects are, because the effects are amazing. Um, cool, cool. Someone's asking me here, have I done full day fasts? Yeah, I've done some fasts. Yeah. Why did I quit drinking? That's a really good question. It just didn't make any sense. It was not adding any value, and it was just taking value from my life. And my mind is very economic. It's sort of like this economist mindset. Uh, that's a very kind of the way I look at it. It's like that. It's is this adding any value to my life? And it was adding value at some point. When I was experiencing a lot of social anxiety, going out having a few drinks actually helped. You feel like at ease. You feel like it's nice to actually be out and talking to people. You let loose a little bit. It's good. There's some value in it. But if you get better with people and if you improve your social skills more, and if you get to a point, at some point, like the alcohol is actually hindering your ability to have the most fun that you can have, and you start seeing like there's these gaps in memory, you start seeing like it affects your health and fitness, it starts affecting you're like you just feel like crap and you're less focused the next day, so it affects your business now. And just the trade-off is like, why am I being a slave to this little drink here? And that was really like one of the tipping points. I made a video about that. It's actually, I think, one of my most popular videos, funny enough, is how to quit drinking. You guys can check that out if you just type in how to quit drinking Mario in YouTube search. You're gonna find that in a little bit of my story. But it's just a tipping point where I realized, look, this is just not worth it. Like it's gonna kill everything else in my life. And it's just the trade-off is not absolute. It's not worth it at all. Like it's not even worth considering making the trade-off. That's how bad it is. So yeah, definitely check out that video. Where are your traps? I don't know, man. Like they're somewhere. I don't know. We'll have to ask them. We're gonna ask them and see what they say. Do you feel meditation is helpful to physical well-being? Yeah, meditation is helpful for sure. There's different ways to meditate. 100% helpful. Very evidence-based. Can't go wrong with meditation. Like it's nothing bad I can tell you about meditation. So it does work. So I would say 100% check. Try to do some form of meditation habit. It's gonna help a lot. Um, yeah, guys. So I'm gonna sign out. Thanks everybody for attending the live. For mentoring slash coaching, I'm gonna leave a link in the here in the description. It's gonna pop up there, and you guys can check that out. So you can click there to apply to join the program. We have a few openings right now, so those usually get filled up really quickly. So for you guys that want to get some high quality mentoring in this area of your life with health and fitness and personal development and really creating the life, designing your life the way it needs to be designed to reach your goals, reach out. We'll see if you're a good fit. We'll see how I can help you, and if I can, it's going to be a life-changing thing for you for sure. And I'm looking forward to yeah, seeing all of you guys there. And once again, thanks everybody for attending. I'll talk to you guys soon. And yeah, have a great rest of your day, okay? Talk to you guys. Peace.